All right, let's start off with some butt kicks here. Just nice and light on our feet. Drive those heels all the way up. Try to get the heels all the way up to the butt. Get those hamstrings nice and warmed up. We're going to be using them quite a bit today. And then in and out, some nice side hops here. Do want to get that heart rate up just a little bit. It does make a big difference for when we get into the actual exercises here. And then high knees. Drive those knees up. Not as shallow. Bring them up, way up. At least hip height. Gets those hip flexors, gets those quadricep muscles nice and warmed up here. And then back to butt kicks. A couple more here, and then we'll do those side hops. Let's do some side hops here. In and out. Maybe a little wider than what's comfortable to kind of exaggerate the size of the jump out. Warms up those abductor muscles of the hips just a little more. And then high knees. And hold a squat for me. Let's do a little shoulder flexion. Find a position that's somewhat low, maybe not too low, but something that feels maybe a little bit taxing, but not too terrible. Just bring those arms up. Now I move my arms pretty quick, but do feel those upper back muscles pulling the arms up. It's not complete momentum. Continue to hold, and then squat overhead reach. Sit back into those hips. Try to keep your head up. Try to keep your chest up. So as you sit back into that squat, you're not falling forward. Let's do two more here, and then we'll hold that squat again. Last one. And then just shoulder flexion. So just as we were, pull the abs in as the arms come up too. Like really just draw them in. Yeah, it'll make it a little bit harder, but you actually get a little better stretch to the lumbar spine that way. Something to think about, just pull the abs in. Let's do two more, and then we'll do those squat overhead reach. One more. And reach. That's good. Keep moving. Kind of moving quickly here, but I do want to get that heart rate elevated quite a bit. It does warm up the muscles. Drives oxygenated blood into those muscles. Makes you a little more mobile. Let's do two more here, and we'll go back to butt kicks. One more. And then butt kicks. Just nice and light on those feet. Heels all the way up. How about some high knees? Here we go. Drive those knees up. Way up. Maybe a little higher. And then some side hops. Back to butt kicks. High knees again next. A couple more here though. Just keep those heels coming up. How about those high knees? And then hold that squat again for me. We'll go right into a squat overhead reach. Almost finished here with the warm up, then we'll get into it. Heart rate definitely should be coming up quite a bit though by now. Been kind of bouncing around for about 3 minutes. Keep moving. And then hold the squat for me. Let's do reverse arm circles this time. Try to stay forward. So as you're pulling the arms open, you're not rotating. Just stay straight ahead. That'll really force the activation of those upper back muscles. Let's do one more on each side. And then squat overhead reach. Push your knees out. Squeeze your glutes. Especially squeeze your glutes on the way up. We'll do two more here, and then we're going to get into the workout. One. And you got it. So we're going to start on our backs here in a supine position with an opposite arm and leg reach. So you'll start in a dead bug. You can see me here. And then opposite arm and leg extending. And then alternating sides. Go ahead, join. Now make sure you're pulling your abs in as we're drawing the legs and arms away from the start position. It does require a little bit of coordination here. But keep moving. Drawing the abs in. Make sure you feel that low back. Sit nice and flush with the floor as you do this. Another thing to think about is when you are extending the leg, try not to have the knee jut out. You might notice as that knee comes back in towards kind of the center of the body, it wants to open. That oftentimes is the result of like tight hip flexors, tight back of the hip muscles. but you want to keep your legs forward in their lanes. We got 15 seconds here, and we're doing actually a very similar movement, but in a quadruped position. Now make sure your feet are flexed, and you're reaching far through the heels. One more on each side, and then last one. Good, so we're gonna flip over, got a quadruped position. So I'll start here, palms directly underneath the shoulder already. My back remains nice and flat as I'm extending opposite arm and leg. It's much the same as you were on the floor. So that's kind of what we're trying to mirror here. But instead of having that support of the floor, you have to use your core, back, lumbar, thoracic, all the spine muscles to stabilize your spine so that as you're extending your leg, you're not arching your low back. Because when you're on the floor, we wanted that flat low back. Same principle here. You got 15 more seconds here. And we'll be back on our backs here. Now as you lift your arm, try not to rotate the shoulder open. And shoulder square, hips square. Do one more on each side, and then we'll be back on our backs here. So starting with the left knee, drawing in towards the left shoulder, take your your right leg and your right arm extended position. So we're just holding left arm down on the floor. And I'm actively pulling my left knee to the left shoulder. I'm not resting my right arm. It's just hovering off the floor. Now back still wants to remain nice and flat. Kind of starting this series off with a bunch of traction exercises. They're good for just mobilizing the spine, getting it ready for more big movements. But as you're just holding this position, really just pull the abs and flatten that low back. Now with your right leg, reach hard through the heel. You'll notice your right foot, that right toe, might want to turn out. That's also a result of a tight hip flexor. So again, make sure that that foot, that right leg, is extended and it is hovering just off the floor. Now, what about your right arm? Ideally, it's straight. So if you're bringing your arm back and you're noticing just bending a lot at the elbow, perhaps don't go back so far so you can keep that arm nice and straight. You got 5 more seconds here, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Now draw the right knee into that right shoulder with the left side of the body extended. Your right arm palms up just at the side. Now with this left arm, even though it's reaching back behind, squeeze your shoulder blade down. As you squeeze your shoulder blade down, make sure your neck sits nice and flat. Actively pulling that right knee in to the right shoulder, make sure that the heel is not driving in more midline than the knee. This is tough to do for a lot of people since the hips and hip flexors get really, really kind of tight. So if you were to look down, again, you'd see your legs kind of in lanes. You're not flying open. That's the stretch that we're after through the lower back, that lumbar region. And you will force that stretch through those hip flexors if you can keep your legs in their lanes. You got 10 more seconds on this side. We're going to go through the series once more, starting on the back, so it's easy transition. Really pull the right knee in just a little more. I'm going to go ahead and let that go. So we'll start back in the Deadbug position right here, opposite arm and leg reach. So left leg, right arm, and then opposite sides. Go ahead, join if you haven't already. Now, a couple things to think about. Try to keep your shins parallel with the floor the entire time. A lot of people, as they do this exercise, they'll extend the leg, but then the shin will drop. I want you to hold the shin up because that's going to force that quadricep muscle to fire the entire time. It's a little harder, but you get a little better effect out of the movement. In addition, when this knee drops, you actually release tension through the lumbar spine a little bit. Again, it makes it easier. I get it. I acknowledge it. But we do want that challenge. We do want that difficulty. So try not to close the knee joint completely as you're going in through those extensions. Now, again, make sure the elbows stay nice and straight. And you're really pulling the abs in. Again, you want to feel gripped to the floor. You want to almost feel like someone's pressing you into the floor. Now, again, if that's not you today, that's fine. Just continue to just draw the abs in, draw your shoulders back and down, because that really helps with that flattening effect. Let's go ahead and flip over into that quadruped position, opposite arm and leg reach. I'll show you from face on, so you can see my shoulders a little more effectively here. Now, point the toe as you are extending. As you're extending, make sure the back foot does not turn open laterally. So it's perfectly forward, neutral, as if you were standing, your feet would be forward. As you're extending here, your feet would be facing forward. Now, as I was going to mention my shoulders, got 30 seconds. As this arm reaches, we're not rotating the shoulder open. You have to keep your shoulders square and then force the lift to occur through the upper back muscles. That's what we're trying to strengthen here. We're trying to strengthen through that rotator cuff. And you can really maximize that strength effect 15 seconds if you're not rotating open. You stay square and you force the arm open. Now it's hard. As you stay square and you lift, elbow's going to want to bend because muscles don't want to stretch. Let's do one more on each side, and then we're going to be back on our backs. And we'll start you off here. We got left knee in first, right side of the body extended. So we're just holding. Remember, right arm hovering, left leg hovering. Left arm down, actively pulling the left knee into the left shoulder. And then pull your shoulders down. So even though this right arm is back right now, you're squeezing your shoulder blades back and down. Draw the abs in. Really draw the abs in. And then slightly tuck the chin. What's going on with that left heel? Make sure it's not moving in midline with the knee moving out. Giving you lots of cues here, but all of the cues are essentially designed to make sure your spine stays neutral. Your legs, your arms, they attach into your spine. So if you keep your arms and legs in their lanes, arms straight, legs straight, the way the muscles pull on the spine, it just maximizes those muscle length relationships. Everything's neutral, everything's balanced. Let's go ahead and do the other side. So draw the right knee into the right shoulder, flexing the left foot, lift that just off the floor, left arm back, but not resting on the floor, holding, right arm down. Now actively pull the right knee in. Now the more you pull in, the more your knee's going to want to fly open, the more the heel's going to want to move in, and the more your hips are going to want to cant. So again, find that range of motion that feels appropriate to you. Likewise with the arm, if that range of motion means here, that's fine. I'd rather see a straight arm than a fully flexed shoulder, but a lot of bend, because you're not optimizing all that stretching. We got 15 more seconds here, and then we got another block already. So just hold here for the finish. Really draw the knee in, right knee in, abs in, shoulders down, slightly tuck the chin, and everyone pull their abs in for me just one last time for 5 seconds. Draw them in. Draw them in, and you can go ahead and release them. So we'll be on our feet. You're going to need your dumbbells now. I didn't mention you'll need dumbbells for the workout, but just dumbbells and bodyweight exercises for today. So if you have 3s or 5s, perfect. With hands at sides, this is alternating forward lunge. So as you step forward, try to decelerate your momentum so you stay upright, and then switch sides. Go ahead, join me. So as we're lunging here, a couple things to think about. I want you to be pushing through the heel of the front foot. So it's really going to feel like you're putting on the brakes. I'll show you from the side. As you step forward, you'll notice your momentum wants to go forward. Obviously it wants to go forward because you're stepping forward. But it's the strength of these hamstrings, the strength of these glutes, it's the strength of these low back muscles that essentially pull you back so that you don't continue that forward momentum. It's called an eccentric, but what we're doing is we're trying to keep the muscles stretched under tension. And it's really hard to do, but you can do it if you stay upright and really focus on pushing through that heel as you're going through the lunges. So try not to go to the toe, just stay back. You'll notice when I'm in the bottom of the lunge position, the shin's pretty much perpendicular with the floor. You got one more on this left side or right side. And then standing nice and tall, just a little shoulder flexion. So dumbbells in hands, palms are going to start facing kind of behind you, and then lifting up so the palms face forward in front of you. Now I'll step back just so you can see my arms a little bit better here in the full frame. Join me if you haven't already. As I lift the arms up, there's generally a couple compensations that occur through people, so I want to talk about those. Main one is that when someone flexes their arms up, the low back likes to arch. That's because the lats are tight. That's because the erectors of the spine, they're not lengthening. So how we can counter that, I want you to think about, as you're standing here, squeezing your inner thighs and pulling up on your kneecaps. Think about that. Then squeeze your glutes. That's going to create an anchor for your low back, so you're solid, so you're tight. If you have an anchor here, as the arms then flex up, you're much less likely to then extend to that lumbar spine. Because this actually contracts the lat muscles, which then affect the shoulders, which is going to cause the elbows to bend, which is going to cause the wrists to bend, which is going to cause the head to go forward. So even just a couple simple cues through the hips make a big, big difference. Do one more for me. And also a really challenging exercise. Arms are going to be up the entire time with your dumbbells, and we're going to go into a squat. So this is an overhead squat, up and down. So as you squat here, likewise with that low back, we want to make sure, and like the arms, they're not falling forward. So it's really, really important. You pull those abs in, and then you sit back. You might not get that low. I mean, your squat literally might look like this, and that's okay. If you're on the squat down and you start to notice the elbows bending, wrist bending, head falling forward, you've already gone too low. My point is I'd rather have you in proper mechanics, upright, sitting back, forcing the stretch through the spine, than just attempting to get really low, arching the low back, and everything kind of collapsing and folding inward. That's not optimal. So just do your best. You have 20 seconds here. Hold those arms up, sit back, abs in, shoulders down, arms straight, wrists straight. And whatever range of motion is good for you, that's good for you. Let's do one more here. Good. And then bring your arms back to your sides. We have an alternating forward lunge. Once again, pushing through the heel as you do these steps, making sure not to fall forward. This is a little more challenging circuit, just simply because we're using really all the major muscles of the body, the glutes in particular, legs, quadriceps, back muscles, etc. So it should be fatiguing, but just keep moving. Now, as you're stepping forward, make sure your legs stay in their lanes. Oftentimes, I see when people lunge, back foot likes to turn open, front foot might turn open, or the knee will collapse in. Again, everything is square. And if that means you have to shallow up how low you're going, maybe you're only going to here, that's fine. If you're able to maintain a better upright position and still push through the heel, but you're not as low, that's fine. You have to listen to your body and start tuning into your own mechanics. So I'm just a guide, but ultimately the senses are yours. Keep pulling the abs in. Let's do one more on each side. And then we got that shoulder flexion. So again, standing nice and tall, show you from the side. Bring the arms up, and then bring the arms down. Go ahead. So as you do this, make sure the head does not come forward. And straighten those elbows. Really, straighten those elbows. I know lots of you like to bend your elbows on this one. Make it an effort right now, even though I can't see you in real time, to keep those elbows straight. Keep the arms straight. You should feel a tremendous amount of tension if you're doing this correctly through the upper rotator cuff, through these upper back muscles. You can see here as I'm lifting those arms up, engaging all the muscles. So I'm pulling down. As I draw down, I'm straightening the arms. That's tough to do. It's going to feel very kind of counterintuitive to your own muscles. But that's optimal length relationships through the upper spine. Let's do one more. Now hold the arms up. We've got those squats. So as you sit back, drawing the abs in, keeping the arms up the entire time. Again, how low do you go? It's until you start to notice you're falling forward. Your elbows are bending. So again, your range of motion is entirely determined based on you. Not me, not anyone else. Make sure you're still squeezing your glutes out of the bottom of that squat. So draw the abs in. Right here, you should really feel the butt muscle lifting you up. You can push your knees out just a little because that will help to engage that glute max, so the big butt muscle. And then shoulders down. We got 15 more seconds here. And then another circuit already. Well, that's good. Just keep moving. Now, obviously, I don't even have dumbbells, and my heart rate's coming up, and my muscles are fatigued. So if you have dumbbells, obviously it's just added intensity, but just make sure the added intensity of the weight doesn't get in the way of form. Let's do one more. And good. You can set your dumbbells down if you have, and then we're just peeling ourselves off the floor by a squeezing of the shoulder blades together, and then back down. Go ahead, join. So on the lift here, a couple things to think about. You are pushing through the palm of your hand, but as you push through the palm of your hand, really think about the shoulder blades contracting right along the flanks of the spine as tight as possible. If you could do this without even using your hands, great. But if you don't quite have that range of motion through the upper thoracic spine, the interior, the front side of the spine, if you don't quite have that mobility to get here, that's fine. Use the assistance of your palms to cause the lift. Now, as I lift, I do see this a lot. People's shoulders will roll forward. This is protraction. This is not what we want. We want shoulder extension. We want retraction. So squeeze the shoulder blades back and down as you lift. But if you're lifting and it starts great, and then you get up to a certain point and things start to roll forward as you continue to lift, you've gone too far. Your traps are engaged, and that's not what we want. All right, we got a alternating leg lift. So with your toes pointed, just lift up, hold for a second, and then back down. So as I lift here, I'm really reaching hard through the big toe. I'm pulling up on the kneecap as I lift. And then as I lift, I'm making sure that the hips are not rotating. So again, you want to stay as square as possible on these lifts. Just 20 more seconds on this one. And then we've got, we'll be on our back. So continue to lift here. Head can just remain in a neutral position. Let's do one more on each side. And then the last one here. Very good. And we're going to roll over. We'll start once again in that dead bug position. But we are doing a top half crunch. It's an upper thoracic flexion exercise. So just starting here, dead bug position, holding the legs neutral, and then lifting up, keeping your arms perpendicular the entire time. And go ahead, join me. So on the lift, I am actually drawing my abs in. You might not be able to do that, but that's actually what I want you to feel, almost as if you are coiling yourself up. Your whole spine is flexing up, but you're vacuuming in to help with that pursuit. Now with the arms, as you lift up, make sure that the shoulders and arms don't come forward. So the shoulder joint will actually open slightly on the lift. Keep your arms straight, keep your elbows straight, and flex up and back down. Now, this one's actually pretty challenging. So hold for a second when you get to the top, and then try to draw your abs in. And make sure your elbows stay straight too. You got 15 seconds here. I'll finish him up with you. Let's do two more. And then last one. Now with your hands coming to your sides, obviously lying supine here, it's just an alternating leg lift. Keep your leg nice and straight. Try not to rotate the hips as you lift the leg up. And alternate sides. Go ahead, join me. So obviously you can see I'm flexing my foot. And as I lift here, I'm not letting the leg rotate open. A lot of people like to do this again because of tight hips, tight hip flexors, tight hamstrings. All this tightness gets in the way of proper mechanics. So what can you do if you're lifting and everything's kind of like flying open and the knees bending? Well, just shallow up how high you are lifting. You can push the opposite heel into the floor. That'll actually kind of act as an anchor for the hips, allowing you to get a little better hip flexion. So it's kind of a little trick that you can think about when you're doing these leg lifts is drive the opposite heel down. Now, as you drive that opposite heel down, make sure you're flexing that foot really hard. Pull up on the kneecap too, because we want to strengthen the quadricep here. Now, some of you might have really mobile, kind of relaxed hamstrings on this, and that's great. If that's the case, that's fantastic. What I want you to then focus on, if that's you, is really pulling the abs in and really pulling up on that kneecap. If that's not you, just continue to try to flex the heel hard and still pulling up on that kneecap, lifting as high as you can without causing any sort of rotation. Let's do one more here, and then we'll be back to the Cobra Extensions. So flipping over onto our back, see from the side, legs, squeeze them together. I want your toes pointed, and then lifting up, squeezing the shoulder blades. Again, really nice exercise, the Cobra Extension for upper thoracic mobility. So while you do feel a lot of tension, hopefully through the upper back, what you're also doing with this, which is just so good for your spine, is you're stretching the anterior. So think of the front side of your spine. That is actually releasing and lengthening. Likewise, if you can really do a good job pinning your shoulders back and down, you can see how low my shoulders are here, you're getting a nice stretch through the chest muscles, the shoulder muscles, and that all affects how the head and neck will just naturally sit. So if your shoulders can depress back and down easily, you're much less likely to have a head that's going to fall forward and round forward. That can cause unnecessary stress to the cervical spine. All right, let's switch to the prone leg lifts. So again, hands at sides here, point to toes, and then lift. Now as I lift, try not to pile drive into the low back. And if you feel that's the case, just perhaps shallow up how high you're going, or if you're still feeling a little low back, you can even point to toe. Again, it's not the low back that's causing the lift. It's your leg muscles, and it's your glute. As you lift, like with many of the other exercises I've already cued today, we've got 15 seconds here, try not to rotate open. So the leg is not externally rotating. It's just straight up. Now, as it goes straight up, what's going on with the knee? I know your knees feel straight. They could probably be straighter. Could honestly probably be straighter. So just point that toe harder, pull up on the kneecap. Let's do one more on each side, and we're back on our backs, the dead bug start position with upper thoracic flexion. Join me. You keep the feet flexed, keep the shins parallel as you're going through the movement. Try not to bend the elbows. Just straight up and down with the arms. Draw the abs in. Really draw the abs in. And then reach up. If you can hold for a second, that's good. That's optimal. Ideally, whatever range of motion, you keep going, I'm going to come out of it. Whatever range of motion you choose to do in an exercise, you should be able to control the movement. What I mean by range of motion, so as you're crunching up, you should, so however far you go, that's your range, you should have the strength to control that, at least for a couple seconds. If you can't, you've actually probably gone too far for the movement. So always in control of the movement, whether it's a lunge, whether it's a crunch, whether it's a Cobra extension, doesn't matter. You should be able to at least hold an isometric for a period of time. Otherwise, you can possibly injure yourself because you're not able to stabilize the joints as you're going through that range of motion. All right, supine leg lifts now. So relax upper back and then lift the legs. Focusing more on obviously the lower body with this one, hamstrings, quadriceps, but also abdominals, also lumbar spine. Again, that lumbar will stretch properly if the hips do not shift and even the legs do not rotate open. Now, that's tough to do, but just do your best. And again, as I'm even lifting the leg here, I am pushing the opposite heel into the floor. Again, that just acts as that anchor. And if you don't feel the grounded leg flat to the floor, not yet, eventually you will, just through the act and process of doing these exercises. But that's ultimately the goal. So as you lift the leg, you can see my leg stays nice and flat to the floor. I can actually feel my hamstring. I can feel my calf. I can almost feel the back of my knee on the floor. That's where we want to get to. As you release tension through the calf muscles, the hamstring muscles, up into the low back muscles, that will help to just improve the resting length relationships of everything down the leg. You get 10 seconds here, and then we'll be back to our dumbbells. Let's do one more on each side. Let's hold each one for just a second here. Reach hard to the heel, pull up on the kneecap. And let's do the other side. Same thing. Reach hard to the heel, pull up on the kneecap, draw your abs in then, and then relax it. Very good. All right, so grab your dumbbells. We are in an L-sit position. I'll sit back here so you can see me. Squeeze your legs together, sitting forward nice and light on your sit bones with the dumbbells in hands. It's a shoulder press. So join me now, and I'll just continue to cue. Now, if you're really having a hard time sitting in this position, because lots of people do have a hard time just sitting like this, it's because the hamstrings are tight, it's because the low back is tight, the hips are tight. If that's you, just simply bend your knees so that you're not falling back. Because if you feel like you look like this, that's not what we want. We want you sitting forward. And you can see, if these are my sit bones, I'm sitting forward on my sit bones. And then squeeze your knees together. If you have a really, really hard time sitting forward on this, I need you squeezing your knees together. That helps to act as like an anchor to pull you forward, to keep you forward so that you don't fall back. And even if that isn't you, you've got all this mobility through the lower part of the body, lower spine. So what? Still squeeze your knees together. I'm pretty mobile here and I'm still focusing on the same cues. I'm squeezing my inner thighs. I want to maintain that strength. I'm pulling up on my kneecaps and I'm really drawing my abs in. 15 seconds. I mean, really draw your abs in. Pubic bone all the way up to the sternum. Vacuum them in. We'll get to the shoulders here next time, but keep pressing here. Again, hold that position, anchor yourself. You got 5 seconds. And then go ahead, release that. Same mechanics with the body right now. So I was just in a seated position. Obviously now I'm on my back, but I'm still making that L. But with my dumbbells, I'm doing shoulder flexion. So as I'm moving through this space here, as you're moving through the space here, you can feel how flat your spine feels right now. And that's how we want your back to be positioned while in that L-sit position or that shoulder press that we just did. So if you're not quite there, that's perfectly fine, but eventually you will get there. As you flex your arms back here, 30 seconds, make sure your shoulders sit down so we're not protracting up. Your arms are straight, your elbows are straight. If that means you don't go quite so far back because you're just doing this to get the arms to the floor, I'm not going to say it's cheating, but you're not optimizing, again, how the muscles are lengthening through the upper spine. And that's what so many of these exercises are about. It's about length relationships. It's about you optimizing how well you move. And if you're focused on these proper cues, it will improve how you move, not just in the exercises, but literally just movement in general. Let's go right back to the L-sit. So sitting forward. Now let's talk about the shoulders. Again, sitting nice and tall, drawing abs in. As I press up, I want you to think about keeping your forearms perpendicular with the floor the entire time. So as we're pressing up, they're not going out wide. They're not collapsing in. They're just straight up and down. Now as you reach, what's going on with the head? Don't let that head come forward. I know there are so many things to think about with this, because obviously there's a lot of muscles, and each muscle kind of has its own cue. But as you're going through the movement, draw the shoulders down, head back, nice and lengthened position, spine looking just like it would have had you been resting, or if you were on the floor, like we will be doing in 15 seconds. Keep your wrist straight too. I do see a lot of people bend the wrist. That actually gives your brain and your muscles actually a false feedback with how open the shoulder joint is. So just focus on wrist straight, stack that wrist joint as you press up. Let's go ahead and flip onto our back again. Hold the legs up. Right here, squeeze the legs together, reach the heels, arms straight, shoulders down, flex them back. Kind of the flanks of the spine, tight. So if they are tight, you are more likely to tilt as the arms flex back. Likewise, as the arms flex back, you notice the knees want to bend. I want you to resist collapsing these joints, collapsing at the elbows, collapsing at the knees. So that's why I'm asking you to reach hard through your heels as you pull hard on your kneecaps down. That will, in time, release the back of the leg. Draw the abs in to release the low back. As your arms flex back, 10 seconds, don't bend the elbows. Keep the shoulders down. That strengthens the upper spine. Really, really, really good for you. Go ahead and let that go. We're going to grab a quick drink of water. Me as well. And then we'll be back on our feet. So with your dumbbells in hand, we have a dumbbell shoulder squat. This will be a good challenge for us. Feet a little wider than shoulder width, but not sumo wide, but something like so. Hands here, and then squat. Go ahead, join me, and I'll just continue to cue. So we're not going to go super fast on these squats, but not super slow either. Think maybe like a 1 or 2 count down, 1 or 2 count up. Now really focus on here. So as you're squatting down, with your hands not falling forward, you're keeping them back because you're going to strengthen the upper back muscles this way. You're sitting back, but you're not letting the low back arch. Why? Because when this happens, you're actually driving a lot of the force in terms of how the muscles are allowing you to move. You're driving a lot of that into the lumbar spine. It's not necessarily going to hurt you, but it's not optimal. The squat is designed to be a glute exercise. So as you sit back, you got 20 seconds, you want to make sure that the lumbar stays in a neutral position. This is really kind of critical when it comes to squatting in position. Squatting in particular, you're not letting your hips tilt excessively forward, which causes unnecessary muscle contraction through the lumbar. We don't want that. You got 10 seconds. We want a neutral spine because you can see here, this throws it into the low back. You can see these muscles contract. This right here transfers the weight load down into the glute, so I can feel that glute. All right, standing abductions. So we can come out of that. It's a tough minute here. Palms facing forward, simply abducting the arms up and back down. Go ahead, join me. So a lot like the flexion exercise that we were doing earlier, flexion was this one, abduction, same kind of cueing. So I want you to think about squeezing the inner thighs, squeeze the glutes, pull the abs in. Really pull the abs in. I'm not kidding. Really pull the abs in. Because when you draw the abs in, you create that lift and that length through the spine, particularly like the lower half of that spine. That lift right there actually will cause a better engagement of the upper back. And then keep the arms straight. As you hold here, in a perfect world, you would see a straight line from your hands down to your heels. And that spine would be perfectly straight. You got 10 more seconds here. So continue to abduct those arms up. Make sure the head does not come forward. Draw the shoulders down. Do one more here. And go ahead and let that go. We've got a little corpse pose. Hopefully you'll appreciate this, but it's not going to be completely passive. So we are on our backs here. Feet are going to be just in their lanes, about 6 inches or hip width apart. I want you to reach through your heels, pull up on your quads or your kneecaps, squeeze your glutes, draw your abs in. Why? Because I want you to feel your low back feel flat to the floor. If it doesn't, try to tuck your hips under slightly. We're trying to get that whole spine flush with the floor, as if someone were pushing down on you. So once again, reach through the heels, pull up on the kneecaps, squeeze your glutes, pull your abs in, slightly tuck your hips under. Now with the upper body, take your fingertips and reach them towards the wall, away from you, as you squeeze your shoulder blades back and down. And then with the crown of your head, reach it towards the ceiling. Now what's going down the chain? Have you lost tension through your heels? How about your quads? What about your abs? Tuck your hips, fingers towards the wall, crown of head that way. This is traction. You're actually creating your own pulley system to lengthen your spine. This is not completely passive, but this will actually improve posture because you are literally pulling yourself with these cues in two opposite directions. And we're going to come out of it. So let's go back to those shoulder squats. Show you from the side here. Grab your dumbbells, hands at shoulders, squatting down, making sure the head does not come forward, making sure the spine stays nice and upright. Should look something like this. Now again, I've talked about range of motion a lot, so yours might be shallow. That's okay. If yours looks like this, that's fine, as long as you're not falling and breaking proper form. If your range of motion is here, because you're really mobile and you can still stay nice and upright, no problem, great. Match what is appropriate for you. Keep squatting here. You got 15 more seconds, and we got those abductions. Now, if you are keeping your back nice and flat in 5 more seconds, we'll do one more squat here. If you are keeping the back nice and flat, you'll actually feel a slight stretch to that lumbar. All right, go ahead, come out of that. We got the abduction. So standing nice and tall, shoulders down, arms straight, wrists straight, elbows straight. Head, neck nice and long. So if you have a mirror, if you don't have a mirror, you should still be able to feel your shoulders depress. You should feel actually a mild stretch through the back of the neck, these upper trap muscles. As you abduct up, if you keep the shoulder down, you will feel that length. If not today, that's fine, but it's something in time you will. Got 20 more seconds here, and we'll do that corpse pose again. So squeeze the inner thighs, pull up on the kneecaps, squeeze the glutes. That's your anchor. That anchor stabilizes that low back. So when we abduct up, you get that spine to stretch. Drawing your abs in vigorously will help with that as well. Let's do a corpse pose. So on our backs here, right here. Reach through your heels, pull up on your kneecaps, squeeze your glutes, tuck your hips under slightly to flatten your low back, and then draw your abs in. Now with your fingertips, reach them towards the wall, squeeze your shoulders back and down, and then crown of the head that way as you slightly tuck your chin. Try not to lose tension. Just hold. This might be uncomfortable at the ankles. If that's you, that's fine. Just continue to try to hold. You know, if you were to look, make sure that the feet are not flopping open. Lots of people that are really, really tight through the calf muscles, peroneals, even the anterior tib, will cause that external rotation. It's called eversion of the foot. That happens. Try to resist that. Now, also make sure that the ankle is staying nice and flush. So even if the foot, the toes are pointed up, make sure that the ankle itself is not supinating, right? It's not supinating. You don't want to do that. You want a neutral angle position. So squeezing even maybe the inside of the ankles together, if that's you, or you feel like you're supinating a lot, you got 5 seconds here. Try to squeeze the inside of the ankles to counter that supination. All right, we'll be on our feet. We can set those dumbbells. We're not using our dumbbells, excuse me. On our feet, though, we have a standing on our left leg here first. We're going to be bringing our right knee up, just a little balanced series, and then knee extension. So go ahead, join. Always on that left foot right now, just standing nice and tall as you extend. Now you can see here my right knee is in the same plane as my right hip. That's the goal. And then going into knee extension. Now, if that's not quite you, because as you do the lift, your hip wants to cant up or you just literally can't fully extend the foot, that's fine. What I want you to do is put your hands on your hips to make sure your hips are level. And then if you need to lower your knee, that's fine. Make sure your hips are level. Because if your hips are level, it means your spine is in a neutral position. And then from here, extend, pulling up on that knee as you reach hard through the heel. Again, a lot of these cues sound very similar, but again, you're dealing with the same muscles. So mechanically, cueing should be similar from exercise to exercise. So as you extend, once again, reach through the heel, pull up on the kneecap. You got 15 more seconds on this side. I know it feels like a long minute. I'll talk about the standing leg here in a moment. But as you lift, hold for that second, and then come back down. Let's go ahead and switch sides. So now you're down on the right side. Lift the left leg up, and then extend that left. Good. And just try to hang out, standing nice and strong on that grounded right leg right now. Now, your weight should be back on your right heel, and you are pushing down hard on your right toe. I want you to feel the arch in the foot. That'll strengthen the ankle, will strengthen the foot, and that'll work up the chain. Something else to think about. How straight is that right leg right now? You got 15 seconds. It's likely bending quite a bit. And you'll notice as that left knee extends, the right knee likes to bend more. I want you to push the right knee back. Go ahead and relax that. We're going right back into the other side. So stand on that left side. Bring that right knee up. Weight on that left heel. Push down on the left toe. Pull up on the left kneecap to straighten that left knee. And then extend. As you extend, don't cant the hip up. So if this is occurring, right, where you're just lifting the leg and the hip is driving up, your knee is probably too high. All right, so again, muscles pull on bones, and if muscles are super tight, they really pull on bones, and they cant you out of the correct position. That's not optimal. So again, shallow range of motion, how you do that is simply by lowering the knee and then go into that knee extension. That's fine. But if you've got nice mobility through your hip flexors and you have nice mobility through your hamstrings, then sure, try to drive that knee all the way up and then lift. Now, but as you lift, don't rotate open. Keep it square. Let's do 10 more seconds on this side. Hands on hips, if you will, and then extend, not opening, straight, reach hard to the heel. Let's do the other side. Now make sure your toes are forward too. So as you're standing here on that right leg right now, if you were to look down, the foot doesn't look like this. It's not, I don't know if you can see my foot, but it's not externally rotated. You are forward. And then as that left leg now lifts 30 seconds, it's also forward. This should be irritating. Balance exercises oftentimes are until they're not. It's actually kind of crazy, but it's like a switch happens. You just have to do lots and lots and lots of practice. And then at some point, your muscles are just like, oh, I get it. It's actually not that hard anymore. Work towards that. It might take a while, but it will happen because just through consistency, just through the repeated activity of these movements in time improves how your muscles move, how they engage. Let's do one more. And that's good. Now we're gonna need our dumbbells. We're gonna be in a crescent lunge. Left foot here forward first. Dumbbells in hands, palms always facing forward. Make sure the back leg is nice and straight, feet forward in their lanes, and then extending the arms back, making sure the head does not come forward. Go ahead, join if you haven't already. So as I'm extending back here, I'm actively straightening this knee. I know it feels straight. It's probably not. Straighten the knee. How do you do that? I want you to push hard down on the toe and then pull up on the kneecap. Once again, same cues, but again, same muscles, same mechanics. So as you push down the toe, pull up on the kneecap. Then squeeze your glutes. You can squeeze both. That's fine. Draw your abs in. Make sure you're not resting on that front thigh. I see that often. You're holding. And you should have a straight line from back foot all the way to the shoulder. And then as you lift, don't let the head come forward. Keep your shoulders squeezed back. You got 20 seconds here. Your left leg should be on fire. Really. Your left glute should be on fire. Squeeze your glutes. Pull your abs in. Push down hard on that right toe right now. You got a little more than 5 seconds. Let's do one more. And that's good. We're going right back to standing abduction because I do think this is a phenomenal movement. Palms facing forward, stand nice and tall, abduct up. So as we practiced this earlier, squeeze the inner thigh, squeeze the glutes. Weight is back on your heels, pull your abs in. Make sure your head stays back. Again, these movements are as much about improving posture as they're about anything else. Strengthening, lengthening, what have you. It's all about spine posture. So stand as tall as you can. By standing back, giving your head back, abs in, back, glutes, squeeze, because that pulls on your lumbar, you are causing length through that spine. So just something to think about as you're going through the movement here. Stay back, way back. Make sure the arms go back. You get 10 seconds. You'll notice you get to about here, and everything wants to come forward. Resist that. Let's go 5 more seconds or one more. And now the right side forward in that crescent lunge hold. So legs forward, toes forward, push down on the left toe, pull up on the left kneecap, squeeze your glutes, draw your abs in. Make sure the head does not come forward. Your arms are going to remain straight. Your wrists are going to remain straight. And then just lift and hold for a second. Like I was saying earlier, you should be able to hold any range of motion you get to. If you can't hold a position, you can't even hold this position. Maybe take a shallower step. You need to be able to stabilize wherever range you find yourself in, as that improves safety of the movement. You're not going to potentially injure yourself through the exercise. And again, this is pretty fatiguing stuff, so if you need to take a break, please do so. but challenge yourself in that process. Now again, make sure you are really firm through that left back foot, 10 seconds, and it's not rotating open. I do see that a lot with this one, especially as fatigue kicks in. By the way, when you turn that foot open, you're disengaging the upper inner thigh. Disengage the upper inner thigh, it does affect the low back. Again, this is just the kinetic chain. Go ahead and come out of that and get a shoulder press. So, standing nice and tall, wrist straight, stand upright, up and down. So as you're going up and down, you can see from the side here, my arms tracking in a straight line with that spine, or back of the shoulders, back of the head. Just think of a continuation, almost as if like the arm bones become a continuation of your spine as you lift, not coming forward. Not letting the shoulder come up. Keep your shoulder down. Flare your arms. This is tough stuff. Why is it tough? Because your body doesn't want to move this way, but we're forcing length through that upper thoracic right now, through that upper spine. Make sure the neck stays long. Head's not coming forward. Keep the head back. So once again, squeeze the upper inner thighs. Pull up on the kneecaps. Squeeze your glutes. Pull your abs in. You got 5 seconds. Head back. Shoulders down. Relax it. Crescent lunge. We're already in. Bring the left foot forward. Make sure your legs are about 6 inches apart. You can see here, I'm not super wide. I'm not on a tightrope. I'm about hip width. And then extending the arms back. Let's keep moving here. Pull the abs in as the arms go back. Really pull the abs in as the arms go back. Make sure the head does not move. It's not coming forward. As you lift, make sure the shoulders don't come up. You're probably pretty good at this, as people generally are a little more effective or a little better at doing shoulder extension. This is shoulder extension versus things that are like up overhead. People, perhaps you find a little more difficulty with movements up here. Doesn't mean that this is any less effective though. This actually probably does a better, in some cases, a better job of actually strengthening those spine muscles. This does more of a job of like stretching those spine muscles. So let's go 15 more seconds. Weight should still be on the heel of that front foot. Try not to get your weight forward. Keep the weight still back. So your front shin should look about perpendicular, vertical with the floor. And go ahead, step out of that. We've got those abductions again. So we're standing here. Shoulders down, arms up, arms nice and straight. Head, neck long, shoulders back, abs in. Squeeze your glutes, weight back on your heels. How about those wrists? I'm going to keep referring back to the wrists. I'm going to keep cueing the wrists. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing. This affects this, affects this, affects this. It's crazy, but it does. Keep your wrists straight. Keep your elbows straight. Keep your shoulders down. And then move. Try your best not to compensate. Again, you can listen to your body. You know when you start to feel that resistance. Perhaps it's here. Just pay mind to that. Just resist folding forward. Keep your arms straight. Keep your shoulders back. You have 5 seconds. Make sure your weight's back. Head back. Shoulders down. Let's do one more. And on the right side. All right, this stuff's getting tough. Bring your right foot forward, legs forward. Hold that crescent lunge position. Draw your abs in. Make sure the head does not come forward. Squeeze your glutes. Straight back with the arms. We're not going wide. This is abduction. We're not doing that. We're doing extension. Like I was saying earlier, extension arguably does a better job of engaging those upper back muscles. You can probably feel that in terms of like the contraction, the tightness, the strength. You should feel stronger here than like here. That's what I'm saying. So take advantage of that. Overflex your muscles, particularly those upper rotator cuff muscles. You have about 20 seconds or so. So squeeze. How far back can you get the shoulders, right? Can you almost like roll your shoulders back? How skinny can you be through the front? Just things to think about as you further contract the muscles, strengthening through that upper spine. Let's go 5 more seconds here. How about one more? Squeeze your glutes. Go ahead, come out of that. We got those standing shoulder presses, feet forward, arms straight, wrists straight, press up. Keep those forearms vertical. Perhaps you, when you're here, arms want to roll forward. If this is you, when you're in this position, if this is you, it's because that upper chest, the pec minor, as well as that anterior delt, front shoulder muscle, tight. I don't want to stretch. Work against that. Try to just pull the arms open. Don't take it to pain, but pull your arms open to get that stretch. But at the same time, you can see here from the back, as I pull my arms open, I'm actually just further strengthening and engaging the upper rotator cuff. That's great. It's actually fantastic because that in time will naturally, at rest, not even when you're doing exercise. It'll just set the shoulders down. Just literally something as simple as drawing the arms back will force stretch and will force strength. Something to think about. Let's do one more shoulder press. And go ahead, let that go. Set the dumbbells down. We're in a supine position. You are completely relaxing right now. So I want you in a butterfly position, and you're gonna let your arms go back. You're just gonna hang out. So feet together, try to tuck the chin slightly. Now the goal is to get the spine as flat to the floor, and I just want you to relax. If you don't feel your low back on the floor, try to tuck your hips under just a little bit. And you're not squeezing your glutes, you're not flexing any muscles right now. You are just hanging out. Now you notice my arms are pretty straight, but they're relaxed, okay? So I want you to go as far back as you can with your arms, as straight as you can with your arms, but not forcing muscles to engage to hold the position. And you can just kind of take a self-assessment, hey, how much abduction am I able to get with my legs with keeping my back flat on the floor? How much flexion am I able to get with my arms and shoulders without having to put any muscle tension into the upper back and into the arms? So we're just relaxing here. But in time, as your nervous system improves stretch tolerance, those length relationships, you'll notice, wow, my arms are way straighter without any effort. Wow, my knees abduct way more without any effort. Wow, my spine's way flatter to the floor without any effort. This is what we want. This is the goal. All right, let's do a down dog. Complementary. It's still a stretch for the posterior side of the body. I'll show you a down dog here. Start with the spine. So you see how my spine's nice and flat? My knees are bent. That's okay. If you can keep your spine nice and flat, then go for it. Start straightening the knees. But don't straighten the knees until you're assured that your back feels flat. So a couple things to think about. Squeeze your shoulder blades down, back together. Your shoulders aren't here. Your shoulders are back. Then try to tilt. Tilt. This is tilt. Tilt down. Tilt your pelvis forward. Once you're in that position, if you can then straighten the knees to really get the stretch to the back of the hips and the hamstrings, please do so. But if you're here and you start to straighten your knees and this occurs, I need you to keep your back nice and flat. So tilt the pelvis forward, squeeze your shoulders down. It should almost feel like you're trying to shorten the distance between the back of your shoulders and the back of your hips as you hold the position. It's tough to do, but it does make the stretch actually a little more effective for the anterior of your spine. And that's essentially what down dog is for. It's to stretch that anterior of the spine while at the same time releasing the back of the hips and the hamstrings. We got 5 more seconds here. And we're gonna do a bear hug. Should feel nice. Kind of a little cool down series here. We've done the bulk of all the effort here. Just remember what hand is over the top, just so we can alternate sides next time. So as you're grabbing your hands to your elbows, we are flattening that spine to the floor. You are tilting your pelvis or trying to push your tailbone down as you pull your knees into your chest. That's going to release the back of the hips, okay? So I want to make sure that your hips are not rounding off the floor like so. That's tucking. So tilt your pelvis forward and then pull your arms in. Now make sure as you're bear hugging yourself, you got about 30 seconds yet, your shoulders are down, right? Your shoulders aren't here. Get your shoulders down. Then with your shoulders down, we can work into that cervical spine or that neck area. I want you to reach the crown of the head towards the wall as you slightly tuck your chins. Squeeze your upper inner thighs together. Really squeeze your upper inner thighs together. And then draw your abs in. Try to tilt. Tilt your pelvis. And then pull the knees in. As you pull your knees in, it makes it harder to tilt. I know it does, but work against that. Pull your abs in, squeeze your shoulders back, tilt your pelvis. Go ahead, let that go, get child's pose. If for whatever reason child's pose kills your knees, continue to hold the bear as we just were. But if you have good knees and you can do a child's pose, please join me with your knees squeezed together, with your feet together. Squeeze your ankles together. Do not want your feet supinating on this. Do not let your ankles separate. Your knees together, squeezing your inner thighs together. Flatten yourself the best that you can to the floor with your hips still tilting, not tucking, tilting, and then reaching your arms forward. Now I'm going to let you protract. Oftentimes I ask you to keep your shoulders down. Right now we're protracting the shoulders. So let those shoulders reach as you finger your fingers forward. But if that happens and you just round in the process, don't reach your fingers so far. Make sure your spine is flat is what I'm getting at. Start from the spine and then work through range of motion. The range of motion would be you reaching your fingers. All right, so again, back nice and flat. Pull the abs in, tilt hips forward. Make sure your ankles are squeezed together. As you lower your butt back down, you're going to notice your heels want to just fly open. oftentimes meaning the front of the shins are just tight. Squeeze them together as you hold the position. We're going to go 10 more seconds here. Tilt the pelvis. You tilt as you squeeze the ankles together, and then reach the arms forward. And go ahead and let that go. All right, back over to that supine position. Butterfly your legs here. Let your arms fall back in a relaxed, as straight as they can be, position. So again, if you have a little elbow bend, not the end of the world. If you notice if you're in this resting position, your wrists are really flexed. That's actually a byproduct of the shoulder. But in time, even your arm, the back of the wrist, will just sit flush with the floor. Again, I'm just pointing these things out because these are just improvements that will naturally happen as you improve your mobility. The rest length of your muscles increases, and that'll improve your mobility, it'll improve your posture. So just take note, hey, how wide are the knees? How flat are my arms to the floor? How straight can my arms be? How flat is my spine to the floor? Tuck your hips under just a little bit, just so you really feel that lumbar nice and flush. But if you tuck the hips under, right, and to get that lumbar nice and flush, and you notice your knees have to be a little higher, that's fine. Start from the spine. Get the traction of the spine here first. Let's go 5 more seconds. And then down dog. Once again, right here. Start from the spine. So I'll show you just like so. If you look like this to start, that's okay. Squeeze your shoulders back. If you have a ton of knee bend, that's okay. You're still doing down dog correctly because your spine is in the proper position. But then, if you have the range of motion to the back of the hips and the hamstrings, go for it. But make sure as you straighten, you're not doing this. That's a different exercise. It's a different thing. We're not doing that right now. So squeeze your shoulders back, back flat, pull the abs in, tilt the pelvis, and then slowly start to extend the knees, but not losing the spine's position. And make sure your shoulders are back and down and your elbows are straight. We're not here. You're here. The weight's on the palms, and just hang out. If you want to shift a little, that's okay. But we do want to have a mostly static position. Make sure your feet are forward too, by the way. So as we do this, you're not letting the feet rotate open. You got just 10 seconds here. Go ahead, let that go. Let's do a bear hug. Now opposite arm over. So hopefully you remember. If you don't, not the end of the world, but maybe next time you will. Squeeze the knees together. Squeeze your shoulders back and down. Reach the crown of the head towards the wall. Pull the abs in. And then tilt your pelvis down. So you're trying to arch your low back. You're not going to be able to arch your low back because you're pulling your knees. That's the counter lever. You can feel that. As you try to tilt your hips, causing that arch, if you pull the knees in harder, no arch occurs. That's what we want. So squeeze the knees, squeeze your shoulder blades. As you squeeze your shoulder blades, reach that head. Feel the length of the back of the neck. You get just 10 seconds here. Pull the abs in. Squeeze your shoulders. Get your ankles together. Squeeze your knees together. We are tilting as you reach your arms forward. Make the accommodations for you. And just hang out. Flatten yourself to that floor the best that you can. Make sure the ankles stay together. So again, if you actively need to be squeezing your ankles together, that's fine. I used to have to do that a lot. It actually took me about 6 months, literally, it took me about 6 months of just constantly trying to contract my ankles together while in a child's pose. Because I could do a child's pose. I mean, I could get myself nice and flat, but I literally could not get my ankles together. And it's just a byproduct of, for me anyway, for those anterior muscles of the shin, just too tight. We got 10 more seconds here. We'll finish up here because this is actually the last minute, and that'll be exactly 60 minutes. And go ahead and let that go. So thanks for joining me again. Hopefully Google Hangouts worked well. I assume it did. I did attempt, I have to check on my computer, I did attempt to record this via YouTube. If from the chance that this was actually recorded, then I will send you a link. But there's also a good chance that this was dubbed inappropriate. So hopefully that's not the case, but there's a good chance it was. Thanks for joining. See ya on Saturday, 9 a.m.
Thanks, Mac. That was really great.